Hey, this is Gerd Handel, and welcome to the Inner Light Project. This show is for anyone who's wanting to lead a happier, healthier, and enlightened life. Create more self-love, inject more joy and abundance into their daily life. Join me for inspiring interviews and spiritual topics so you can shine your inner light. Hello my lovelies, and welcome to another episode of the Inner Light Project. My name is Gerd Handel, and today is someone I am excited to share. This is going to be an interesting conversation because there are so many of us out there who are empaths. There are so many out there who are afraid to trust the wisdom from within, and we're scared of manifesting the life that we want. And this woman is just a beautiful, intuitive Reiki master and healer, and she is just helping you to really learn to trust in yourself and your energy and your abilities. Samantha Fey is a Reiki master and intuitive leader. She is the author of Heavenly Alliance, Call on Your Spirit Guides, Ancestors and Angels to Manifest the Life You Want, and a book about Lucid Dreaming. She co-hosts 2 podcasts, Psychic Teachers and Enlightened Empaths, and believes we can all trust our intuition. Hi Samantha, I'm so grateful to have you on the show, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, bless you. I just can't wait. As a fellow empath, I know this is just going to be so powerful.
For sure.
So I would love to start at the beginning of your journey. So what was your life like before you started to trust your intuition?
My life was pretty normal, and it was actually very, very happy. I was married at the time. I was a mom to 3 young girls. I was teaching English at our community college, and I loved my job. I loved being a mom. I was happily married. I just felt as though I had done it. You know what I mean? I even had the white picket fence. And I started having all of these precognitive dreams in 2005 about my husband getting shot in the line of duty. He was a police officer, and I didn't know what to do about those dreams. And I told him about him. I prayed about the dreams. I did everything I thought I could. And then it did come to pass. In 2005, he was shot in the neck trying to apprehend someone who had escaped from a bail bondswoman earlier that day. And he really spent that entire summer fighting for his life. And he did make it. He still suffers from a traumatic brain injury and short-term memory loss and all of that, but he did survive. And anyway, during that summer, I kept thinking about those dreams. I kept thinking about all the weird intuitive experiences I had had as a little girl, all the empathic emotions and senses I would get about people, the spirits and ghosts I'd seen until I was 16. And I thought about how I had pushed all of that down. And to be honest, I felt a lot of guilt sitting in that hospital that summer, because I thought, what if I hadn't pushed that down? What if I hadn't spent my whole life trying to fit in and be normal? What if I had awakened this earlier? Could I have prevented this from happening? And so I just kind of surrendered. I went to the chapel in the hospital, and I got on my knees and I just said, "Dear God, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just help this man to live so he can be a father to our girls." And he did survive, as I said, and I joined an intuitive development group. It was very hard for me. I was raised Catholic. I married a very staunch Catholic. We're now divorced, but to tell him and anyone else I'm going to intuitive development classes was really out there. So I kind of lied and said I was going to meditation classes, which wasn't really a lie, because if anyone's been to an intuitive development class, you know most of it is spent in meditation. And I really, really felt at home. I'm very, I have my own podcast and I've written books and I do speak at events, but I'm still at heart a very shy person. And I'm not the type to just show up to stuff by myself. I usually have to drag a friend or 2 along, but there was nobody for me to drag along. I couldn't ask any of my mom friends, do you want to come to a psychic circle? So I went there all by myself. And I remember walking in, and I just instantly felt at home and welcomed and not shy or not uncomfortable. And it's something I try to remember a lot, especially when I'm teaching and writing, because taking that first step on our true path is so frightening and so scary and so out of our realm of what we're used to. And yet, when we do, when we're brave enough to just dip that first toe out there, usually we are met with that welcoming, warm feeling. Now, it might not stay. I've had a lot of ups and downs on my intuitive journey. I've doubted myself, I've had fear, I've had all of that, but I always feel at home in this world.
I love what you're saying. It's so interesting how when we don't listen to our gut, it will show up and it will mirror to us. I remember when I was, God, I must have been like 8 or 9 years old, and my dad was getting in the car with a few of his friends, and my intuition at that time, I don't know how, but was like, "Don't go, Dad, don't go, Dad." He was like, "I'll be back soon." I was like, "No, no, don't go, don't go." And that's when he had a car accident. That's when he had
Oh,
3 metal plates. That's when I didn't see him for a few months. Yeah, yeah. So I really understand with what you're saying. Like our intuition is so powerful. And I want to honor, you that you saw what you saw. But again, it wasn't your job to save or fix. As much as we can see things, we think we can change things. The reason you didn't share it at that time was because you weren't ready to believe that you had a very higher intuition and a connection with source, right? Because
exactly.
if you trusted it, then you would have said, don't do that or don't. But again, I feel like sometimes we can shame and guilt ourselves for, you know, why couldn't I save them or why couldn't I have done that? And that's the empath story, right? We're always wanting to fix, always wanting to save. But I'm proud of you for trusting your intuition and going to those classes. And, it felt strange and you didn't know what was going on. And I remember when I started on my journey in 2012, and I started to like hear spirits and guides and just get into spirituality, and everyone thought I was crazy. But it was like you said, it was like coming back home to myself, and it was remembering who I'd always been, but I didn't realize that that version of me was hidden so deep beneath. Was that the same for you?
Yeah, it wasn't in many ways. And I think it's so important to recognize one of the things that I struggle with is when people say, "Oh, you have such a beautiful gift." I don't like that. I don't think I have a gift. I don't think you or me or anyone on this spiritually awakened journey is special or different. I think we all have this. And so, what I'm passionate about now is normalizing this so that other
Mm.
people who are having their lights turned on don't feel weird showing up to an intuitive development class or walking into a crystal store or wanting to spend an entire night once a month gazing up at the full moon. I just would love to normalize all of this so that we can recognize we are all spirit and we all have the ability to tune in and feel emotions, ours and others, and that beautiful web of energy that connects all of us.
Intuition is within all of us. We all have this uniqueness, but as women and young girls, we've been taught to do the opposite and trust other people and other things. But actually, the moment we awaken, that's why it's so deep within us, because it's not just we ourselves are awakening, it's generations of women before of us that are awakening through us that weren't able to trust themselves and trust their intuition.
Oh, that's such a great point. I completely agree.
Yeah, yeah, because as you know, the history of women when there was witches and women that were so intuitive, they were shut down or they were burnt at the stake or they were made to think they were crazy. So, no, no, it's natural that women today are still afraid of speaking up because it's deeply rooted from what happened to their female ancestors.
Well, we're also just taught to be nice too. I mean, that book by Gavin de Becker, The Gift of Fear, it's all about how women suppress their intuition because we're trained to put on a smile and be nice and help the stranger into their creepy van, you know?
It's so true. Oh my God. Yeah, especially like the culture I grew up in, I'm Indian, and my gosh, we were told to be a good girl, people pleaser, sacrifice. And you see your life playing out, and then you realize that actually, when do I get to put myself first? When do I get
Exactly.
to trust myself? Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you went on this journey, you then obviously got divorced. What happened next?
Yeah, so I went on this journey and I really started embracing my intuition and I just kind of was pushed in every way. Like doors just opened where I didn't even know there were doors to open. My former department chair had a loss in her family, and I spontaneously did a reading for her and brought her loved one through. And she said, "You know what? You have to do this." And she said, I'm not putting you on the schedule of classes next semester. This job will always be here for you, but you need to share this." And so before I knew it, I was, doing readings, and it was just amazing. And then my friend Deb and I started a podcast, and that's when we really started connecting with listeners from all over the world. And we really got into teaching more about this, writing about it, holding classes, and just trying to create a community of like-minded people who, still wanted to pay bills and do the laundry and raise their families or their four-legged friends, and yet also be very, very deeply in touch with the world of spirit. So then I started writing, and I have my second book coming out in the fall. And so it's just been a beautiful, beautiful journey once I said yes and stepped through the fear of
Oh,
being different.
that's beautiful. And I want to touch on something that I read about you, and you were talking about the term empath. Can you explain what an empath is for someone out there who's not sure?
Sure. So I think an empath is anyone who is a little extra tuned in
Mhm.
to other people's emotions. And maybe as a child, you were called sensitive or imaginative, but empaths tend to have that feeling where even though you could bump into your friend and she's got a bright, beautiful smile on her face, you can feel that there's something else going on. And so I think we empaths are the ones who will look past that facade that many of us put on throughout our day and say, "Are you okay?"
Mhm.
And it can be kind of unsettling, I think, for our friends, right? But it's also comforting because people know that we truly see them and we hear them and we're able to hold space for them. I think empaths do make wonderful intuitives. I think they make fantastic healers. But I do think it's a struggle to be an empath, to be so in tune with the invisible world around us. And so I think it's really important, if you do identify as an empath and you feel that you are sensing all these other energies, that you do learn self-care. And I love Dr. Bud Harris calls it sacred selfishness. And I like that term because I think for many of us, the idea of putting ourselves first is so foreign and comes unnaturally and does feel as though it's being selfish. And yet, once you're an empath, you have to learn how to set those boundaries, how to take time for yourself, and how to tune out the world sometimes so that you're not feeling everything all the time. And that does involve sacred selfishness.
Yeah, I don't even see it as sacred selfishness. I think it's just being whole, because women again have been taught that we're selfish, we put ourselves first, but actually men do it all the time, right? And this is not me being like against men. It's just my background is within women, so I have see patterns and behaviors within women in general, and we tend to neglect ourselves, but I think it's we're not being selfish, we're being whole. We finally get
Yeah.
to be whole and complete. And that's on our terms, not on anybody else's terms. And I definitely know as an empath myself, my gosh, like did I try to save the world and others around me when really we need to save ourselves. When we save ourselves, people then see our beautiful light. They're either drawn to it or they're triggered by it, but it's to remind them that we all can heal from within and we can all trust in ourselves. So that's how I kind of see it personally.
I love that. I love that, being whole. I think that's wonderful. And I think once you recognize that you're an empath, it's fantastic because then you can really use resources that can help you once you truly embrace and get to know yourself. Like I just came back from a cruise with my family, and I'm not like a cruise person. I've never been on a cruise. And I was kind of worried, like, what am I gonna do on a boat floating in the ocean with all these people around me? And I said to my fiance, I was like, I need time by myself at some point on this vacation. And he was like, there's a library. Nobody will be in there. Nobody will be in a library on a cruise. I was like, okay. So I just had to like schedule time for myself, just like 20 minutes a day where I just wasn't around people. And then I had the best time ever. But I think when you're an empath, you've got to really understand what your needs are, and for me, I love to be around people. I'm very extroverted, and yet there are other times where I'm incredibly introverted. So I have to carve out time to be with friends and family and then time to be alone and learn to ground my energy and discharge excess energy. I just think there's a lot of tools at our disposal once we do embrace our wholeness.
Oh, 100%. I'm the same. Like, I love talking to people. Even right now, we're on this podcast. I love talking about topics and conversations, but then I also love my space. Like, I need my little, I call it my little medicine. It's my daily medicine. If I don't have my daily medicine, I'm not happy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us about your book, Heavenly Alliance? Call on your spirit guides, ancestors, and angels to manifest the life you want.
Yeah, I'm so excited to share this book with the world. It's born from my teaching background. So a lot of it is written as though it's like a manual for Earth. So it starts off, congratulations, you've been accepted to the hardest school, the School of Earth. And it's written as like reminders that your soul might forget when you get here to Earth. And so there's different chapters on how to connect with your guides and your angels and your ancestors. But there's also chapters on how to release and let go of old things, how to embrace new things, how to overcome and get through challenges. So it's almost like a manual. It's the manual I always wish we had when we came here, right? Because there should be a textbook for how to be a student of Earth. And I'm not saying I've written a textbook to be a student of Earth, but it really is kind of like a handout of how to understand your world, how to understand your soul plan, how to embrace and discover your soul purpose and why you're here and what you're here to do, what you're here to learn, what you're here to teach. I really believe that we have this idea that life is supposed to be happy. And if everything isn't going wonderfully well every day of our lives, then we're doing something wrong. And I completely disagree with that. I see life as a marathon, a triathlon. I see it as a beautiful but difficult race. And we are here on this journey to really strengthen our soul, grow our soul, stretch and push our soul, love our soul, and grow and build our light so that we can then, on this journey, we can help other people turn on their light.
Oh, I love that. I really love that. And, say somebody's listening right now, how can they manifest the life they want?
Well, I think we would need a couple of shows to answer that fully, but in general, I have found working with people, and tell me if you found this too. I think a lot of people think they know what they want,
Yeah.
but they don't really know what they want. And so I think before you can say how to manifest the life you want, well, people need to get really clear and very honest. What life do you want? What do you want your work to look like? What do you want your relationships to look like? What do you want your health to look like? What do you love about your life right now? What have you already manifested? Because in life, there are some things we will always manifest easily. And it's different for everyone. And I think people have to look at their past and think, okay, what came easily to me? Was it school? Was it dating? Was it exercising? Was it athletics? Was it academics? What came easily to you? What have you manifested pretty easily in your life? You know you've got that down. Then look at the challenges you've had, the things you haven't been able to manifest, and ask yourself, why? Why haven't I been able to manifest that? And really get to the root of it. Is it fear? Or is it that's really not what you want? Maybe you're living your parents' expectations of you. Maybe you're living your societal culture's expectation of you. Maybe you're trying to manifest something the old you wanted, but the more evolved you no longer wants. So before you can really even try to manifest, you have to get really, really focused on what you want to manifest now, why you want to manifest it, how have you been able to manifest in the past, what have been your traditional blocks, and then really like pulling up a weed, how can you get to the root of what has held you back in the past?
Oh,
And
I
that
love
involves a lot of honesty.
Whew. And I love that because a lot of people are not honest with themselves, like you're saying, because they don't know how to be honest with themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And it's scary to be honest with ourselves because being honest with ourselves means peeling away the illusions that have hugged us our whole lives. We hug ourselves with illusions and masks, and that's more comfortable because it's what we know.
Wow.
But when we're able to really drop that cloak that we've hidden ourselves in, Yes, it's scary at first, but just like the Fool on the first tarot card, you're taking a huge leap of faith into a brand new chapter of your life, but you can only do it with authentic honesty.
That's so true. Yeah. Wow. That's so interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Um,
Yeah.
we are coming towards the end of the show. That's gone really quick. I've got a few more questions for you. What are your 5 top tips for someone who wants to trust their intuition, but they don't really know where to start?
I think the first thing people have to get comfortable with is being alone by themselves. And
Hmm.
I don't mean alone by yourself with TikTok or Netflix or even Spotify. I mean truly alone with yourself, sitting alone with yourself in silence. I had to do research for a podcast episode we did on my show about the reticular activating system, this part of our brain that helps us manifest in really fantastic, amazing ways. And when I was doing research on how this filtering system of our brain works to help us focus on what we want and reject what we don't want, I kept coming across research on daydreaming and how we used to daydream all the time. We used to stare
Yeah.
out the window. We used to have moments of just kind of no thing, just nothing happening around us. And we
Hmm.
don't have that anymore because we have so much stimulation at our disposal. And it really kind of made me sad because I thought, you know what? I don't daydream anymore. I don't remember the last time I had 10 minutes to just sit down and stare out the window. I don't even fold the laundry in silence. I'll put the TV on for that. So I have to train myself to give myself that sacred space and that sacred time of silence. When we do that, when we give ourselves, I don't care if it's 5 minutes a day to start with or 20 seconds. I do yoga almost every day. And at the end, we do 2 minutes of Shavasana, where you're just dead corpse. You're just lying there in stillness. Every single class, at least one person rolls up their mat and leaves because they can't even handle 2 minutes of silence with themselves. So I don't care if you start off with 15 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, you do want to get up to about 20 minutes where you're just alone with yourself. That is when your higher self, your guides, your angels, your loved ones, that's when they can get through and talk to you. So that's the first thing I would recommend. The other thing I would recommend is having some ritual to your day. It could be anything that connects you to spirit. It could be you get up in the morning and you walk without any AirPods in your ears. You just walk around your neighborhood, or you sit on your back deck with a cup of coffee or your balcony. It could be that you sit and journal. I'm not a morning person, so my rituals are more at nighttime. Maybe you light a candle and you say some prayers, you meditate, you read a spiritual book. Maybe you journal at night. Maybe you're more of an afternoon person, but any time in your day where you can have some ritual where you do an activity, walking, journaling, praying, where you're actively seeking a connection with spirit, I think is going to be incredibly helpful. And you need to find activities where you lose time. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Where you just are so involved in the activity. And again, it doesn't matter. It could be baking a cake, it could be knitting, it could be woodworking, it could be pottery, anything where you just lose time. These are ways that we actually connect with our intuition. I'm sure you want me to sit here and say, well, you need to and you need to say this mantra. And if you say this mantra 110 times, poof, you're going to be psychic. It doesn't work that way. It actually is really about going deep, deep, deep within through that sacred space and time, through meditation, through prayer, through creative activities that bring us back to that playful, childlike sense of wonder that we all had as kids. And then I think it's really important you're embracing your intuition to ask, to just talk
Hmm.
to whoever your higher power is and just say, how am I supposed to use my abilities now? Show me what my purpose is. Reveal to me the next step on my path and be open. Because once you ask, then you have to be open to any signs, synchronicities, aha moments, or ideas that just get dropped in your head. Now, it's not going to happen. You're not going to be sitting there in prayer and going, hey, God, Goddess, Source, whatever you want to call it. I really want to know what my soul purpose is now. Reveal to my intuition to me now so I can share my light with others. You're not going to hear a voice that says, well, what you need to do at 3 p.m. tomorrow. You're not going to hear that. You're not going to get an idea or anything. But maybe 2 or 3 days later, you're in the shower And boom, you get this idea. Hey, check out that new crystal store on Main Street. And you walk into that crystal store and you see that there's a class you've been wanting to take for months. That's how it works. But you've got to ask, you've got to do activities to seek that connection. You've got to create that sacred space to get that monkey mind out of your way so that you can tune in and then tune up. And then you have to act on the subtle ways that the universe talks to us.
Oh my God, I love these tips, and thank you for sharing them, because the one about it's so interesting. The one you're saying about, like, people might want you to just say meditate on a word, and that's it. It's so true. Like, it doesn't matter how much meditation or other things that we use externally, we have to go back internally, and we can only create the internal side. Like you said, the daydreaming is by being present. And you're so right. I can't remember the last time I sat and daydreamed. And I did that my whole childhood. I did that in school when we were
Me
supposed to be
too.
listening. And I used to get told off. I don't know about you, but I used to always get told off for like daydreaming. And I'd be like, oh, but I'm having a great dream. And, back to reality, they would say. But that
Yep.
was how we were. And even when we started to have phones, I still wasn't that much on my phone. It's now with social media, and, it's making me realize as we're talking that actually we need less of that and more connection with ourselves, like, and just sitting there in the silence is what's going to give us the wisdom from within.
Yeah, it's I think people need to really think about it, especially anyone over, I don't know, say 35 or 40. I remember just a couple of years ago, I had maybe two slides, pages, I don't even know the term for it, on my cell phone of apps. Now I have so many apps on my phone, and I'm like, when did this
Mm,
happen? I used to actually use my phone to talk on the phone or text or
yeah.
check email. Now everything's on there. And you're right, it's a slow progression, and I don't think we're even aware of it and how much of a time sucker it is. And it's okay. I'm not saying, please, I am not saying throw your phones away and go climb a mountain and live like a hermit. I just do think that's reasonable for 99.9% of us. What I am saying is, if you can make time to go to the gym, if you can make time to call your friend, if you can make time to scroll through TikTok for 40 minutes, you can make time 5 minutes to connect with yourself, because you're worth it. Yourself is worth it. And I feel as though our inner true soul, I think we are craving that. We're craving that connection with ourselves.
Which is why a lot of us are disconnected and we're feeling dysregulated, because we are, like you said, we are overly stimulated by products and things that we are seeing, because everything is fast paced. Our life was not like that before. There was fast paced, but not to the level it is today. And it wasn't just one device that it was on. Now it's on this one device, and you go to bed, you wake up and you see your phone. Do you remember the days when you had an alarm clock
Yes.
separately and you would get up to turn it off? Now all of us have it on our phones. And what do we do when we get up? We look on social media, probably without even realizing we're doing that. And so I've started to stop myself, and I've started to use an alarm clock again. And I see a difference, and I put my phone in a different room. Game changer, because that's what I used to do when I was at university when I was 21. I'm now close to my late 30s, and I noticed how powerful I was when I didn't have my phone near me. My phone used to be in my handbag in my bedroom, but I would never touch it when I was going to university. And here we are now. It's the first thing that we pick up. It's the first thing that we put down at night. And that's really sad. We are being controlled without us realizing it.
I know. And we're also judged, though, because I have decided I take breaks periodically for like 1 to 3 months where I just don't look at the news, because come on, why? It's just been so all over the place. So I'll take breaks from time to time. And friends will say, did you read about such and such? Did you hear about this? Did you see that? And when I say no, there's judgment, like, how did you miss that? How could you not know this is going on? And I'm like, look, when it comes down to voting time, I'll do all my research. But for now, I'm taking a little news moratorium. And I feel as though we're judged by that. And so there's like a weird pressure to stay tuned in to everything going on in the world, which is unreasonable.
Oh, 100%. You probably, yeah, I don't think you're aware of this, but I used to be a journalist. And I walked away from a career in journalism because it was just negative news. It was depressing. I had to read the papers every day, and we had to watch everything, and it was just news 24/7.
It's fear
And
porn.
Of course it is. Yeah, of course it is. And, the moment I left, ah, I felt so much peace. That's when I started my inner work in 2012. That's when I started to feel joy in myself. And still to this day, I do not watch the news. I refuse to watch it. I probably watched it briefly for during COVID, maybe once or twice, just to know what was going on. But if I need to know anything, I can see it on social media. I don't need to watch a TV program to know what's going on in the world. But equally, I'm not interested. You know,
I know. I swing all ways. Like I love true crime. I love journalism. I love documentaries. I do love the news, but I have to have balance with it. And I look, I appreciate what journalists do and I applaud you for the work you did. I just think for especially for us empaths, we have to have a balance with that because if
yes.
I watch it too much,
Whew.
I I get very woo.
In your head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was the same, but I'm just grateful not to be it anymore. Because when you're in that world, it's just, because I was a health journalist and I loved things about health, which is no surprise with the work that I do now. I do trauma work now. So, but I just realized that the truth was never the truth. And so for me, I didn't want to be part of something that never told the full truth. And,
Mm.
I don't like how there's always an agenda to things. Like it should be telling the truth. And for me, I've always loved the truth. So yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons why I
Well,
left. Yeah.
it never changes. When I was growing up, my dad had this rule where we had to watch Meet the Press on Sundays. I don't know if you remember that because you're
No.
younger than I am, but it's this incredibly boring political show. And it was just a bunch of men in white suits. I mean, white men in suits who were just arguing every Sunday about the same stuff. And I watched it from fifth grade, all through college, high school and college. And finally I was like, wait a minute, all these years they're still arguing about the same stuff. And I thought it was so silly. So yeah, you got to put it all in perspective. I'm sure those esteemed, highly educated men would look at me and go, well, isn't she silly? She loves crystals and rocks and meditating. So, you know, no judgment either way. But you got to do you. And I feel like part of embracing your intuitive, empathic, authentic path is having that balance in your life and recognizing when you are disconnected from that, recognizing when it is out of balance, and again, taking the action steps to get it back into balance. I think so many of us are waiting for a genie, a fairy, a godmother, what have you, to just come and make everything work for us. And I think sometimes we look at manifesting or praying or all of those things as almost like a wishing well. And
Hmm.
it's just not. We're here to work. We're here to do the work and walk the walk. And I think one of the ways we can start with that is just befriending ourselves and making that sacred space to, just zone out and tune and zone in and tune everything out and focus on our heart and what our soul is trying to tell us because it always knows the way.
Oh, 100%. And if we are ignoring it, the universe will show us that in some fun,
Yes.
magical way, right? And you're like, oh, okay, I got the message. Thank you. Um, but I've got two more questions for you before I forget. What are you most grateful for?
My children.
Hmm.
I know I should have a spiritual answer to that, but really that's the first
No,
thing that comes to my mind are my
your
beautiful kids.
your children are spiritual. They're part of your spiritual being, right?
Yes, they definitely are.
Oh, I love that.
But
And
I am very, very grateful for me too. I'm grateful that I was able to say yes to this path. I'm grateful for the work I'm able to do. So I'm just very grateful for the fact that I've been able to build a life that speaks to me and that I actually want to work. Does
hmm.
that make sense? Like I feel for people who are counting down the days to retirement. I think there's a lot of honor in working a job that you don't want to go to because it pays the bills and provides for your family.
Yeah.
And I think if anyone's in that situation, I hope they do find, a moment today to pat themselves on the back because I've done those jobs and I still believe there's a lot of honor in that. But I am very, very grateful that I've been able to create this career for myself that I absolutely love doing and I never want to retire from.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's beautiful. And what shines your inner lights?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What shines your inner lights?
Oh, what shines my inner light? That would
Mm.
that would have to be my love of magic. And by that I don't even mean traditional magic or abracadabra magic. I just mean I really do see magic everywhere I look. I see magic in an insect landing on my arm. I see magic in a beautiful day, but also in a rainy day. I see magic whenever anyone laughs, when two people hug. I love the magic that is in the world everywhere around us if we just stop to look at it and if we actively seek out those magical moments in our lives. And that just really shines my inner light. It's everywhere. Miracles are happening every day.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you for being on the show, Samantha, and sharing your story and sharing your inner light. There is so many more people that need to really trust in themselves, and you've definitely reminded a lot of people that we all have a beautiful light within, and we are here to really, truly, and wholly trust in ourselves.
Yes, I completely love that I got to be on the show and connect with you. I enjoy your show and I love your energy. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, Samantha, for just a beautiful conversation about really trusting from within. And, everyone has light, everyone has medicine, everyone has beauty, everyone has joy. And we really need to immerse ourselves more in that, because that is part of nature. And we're all part of nature. We're all part of that medicine. But at the moment, we're just so busy and chaotic, running around, thinking that life is chaos. But life isn't chaos. Life is stillness. Life is growth. Life is medicine. Life is beauty. Life is just freedom. Now, unfortunately, that's the end of the show. Before I leave, I want to leave you with this quote. Intuition is the whisper of the soul. That's a quote by Jiddu Krishnamurti. Take care, sisters, and I'll see you in the next episode. For more information about the show, visit www.gerdshandel.com. And remember, stay happy, stay healthy, stay lit.